Welcome, everybody, to Panfish Weekly. Along with Mark, I'm Lyle. And Mark, we have a great guest with us tonight. I can't wait to get started on this, and have been kind of jonesing all week waiting to get him on here because I've been watching ONeil Williams since I was a young kid and growing up. At that time, actually, he wasn't that much older than me, but if it walked or flew, he hunted it, and if it swam, he fished for it. And it's a delight to have him on our show tonight, Mark.
I'm very excited to be here as well. Have a chance to talk with ONeil. I came a little later to his viewership, but I'm glad I came across him, and I look forward to listening and watching everything else he has for us to offer, and definitely talking with him tonight. How you doing, ONeil?
Just fine, thank you. I would say that you may not be surprised. I haven't seen all the shows either. When I watch myself, people ask me, "ONeil, I got a funny story. Shall I go ahead and start one?"
Absolutely.
I got a funny story. If I walk into for a Bass Pro Shop, of course, everybody. It's wrong. I get recognized a lot. Okay, and I'm always flattered by it. Absolutely. And a guy walked up to me not long ago and he said, "Oh man, I love your show. I saw that one of my favorite show that you've ever done that I watched, and it was you were in Alaska and you arrowed that caribou." And my response was, "Listen, you've got some wonderful things to say, and I'm so glad you said hello, but I've never been to Alaska and I've never arrowed the caribou." He said, "Oh yes, you did." I didn't. It wasn't me. But I always by that. It's always
I have always enjoyed your show, ONeil Outside, and you was telling us before the show started that you think it's been going for around 40 years. Is that correct?
That's about, I think, late 1981 was a little cable show that I did in the Atlanta area to a giant audience. I mean, the household penetration was unbelievable. It must have been 200-300 people, and those are the people I telephoned and said to watch, gigantic audience. So anyway, that was the start, and almost 40 years.
That's amazing to be able to do that. We talked a little bit, and I've been doing another show called Catfish Weekly for nearly 7 years. So it's hard to stay focused on that stuff every day and be committed enough that people know you're going to be there on Saturday morning when you do your shows, or we're going to be on Monday nights and or Thursday nights. It's a commitment to have that commitment and do it for 40 years. That's amazing.
Well, I'm flattered, and what else am I going to do? Go sit and eat popcorn? I got to have something to do, guys.
That's right. Tell me a little bit about your fishing down there. I know that you've done numerous shows and caught all kinds of fish. This show is about panfish, but we love catching bluegill and crappie and bass and anything that swims in the water. I'm known for catching giant catfish, not necessarily giant catfish, but catfish. But this is something that every stream and every state in the union has a small fish, and in our opinion, especially mine, I feel like that's the best way in the world to get the youth of our country involved in this great sport.
Oh, absolutely! It's an admirable target for us, people like us, to encourage on television and or radio, in the newsletters, on Facebook, wherever you can reach out and encourage guys to take their children, their grandchildren, and the kid down the block whose dad is not an outdoorsman. You invite him along also.
Mm-hmm.
Go fishing. I mean, going to a football game or playing I did all the football games. I played Little League. I played 4 sports in high school. I played 3 sports in college. All that's team stuff. outdoors is individuals. It's you and your dad, you and your cousin, you and the other kid in the neighborhood. It's individuals. And I think that's one of the reasons why, as the population gets older, that's one of the reasons why fly fishing has become so popular now. It's an individual attempt.
Yeah, I can see that.
You
I
bet.
can see that. And of course, you talk about fly fishing, and I used to do some of it. I haven't for a long time, but I'm sitting here 30 minutes from Bennett Springs, where I can go catch trout all day long, and it's a big trout place, and they raise them, and big fly fishing area and all that. But there's only so much time, and I'm sure you understand that.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
So if you was going pan fishing tomorrow, which one would you prefer to target?
Well, the next target here in the panfish world is we're not all that far along from the crappie fishing really starting. I mean, we've got some cold weather in the next 8 or 10 days, and then when the full moon in February hits, all the crappie will get up. You know, they're under the docks in the trees now, but when the water begins to warm, and here's the key, when the hours of sunlight increase, they will begin to rise in the water column and get closer and closer and closer to the surface at the top of the tree and under the docks, and you can catch them. So It's just really simple. It's funny. And now you said you're in Springfield area, right?
Yes, I'm just north of Springfield, Missouri. Yep.
Okay. And Mark, you're near Chicago.
Near Chicago. We're still under. I got 11 inches of ice down the street from me.
Okay, so up there now, both of you didn't say crappie. You said crappie.
Oh, I chase crappie every chance I get.
I did.
No, what I mean to say is here in Georgia, it's a 2-pound crappie, crappie. A crappie is called a slab.
Mm-hmm.
In Alabama, they call them crappie. Mm-hmm. So a 2-pounder over there is a slob. So I noticed that you guys don't call them. Oh, that's enough. Okay, what?
That's okay. We had a talk with Babe Winkleman about the crappie and crappie whole thing. He goes, well, guys, I call it crappie the way I feel after a night of shooting pool with the boys. And I call it crappie when I chased her today. But then again, you know, Mr. Winkleman is from up north where I'm at. And we got people out here that are Louisiana, and they're calling them sac-a-lait and specks, and it's different everywhere.
That's in Louisiana. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Which is white bag. I think that's what that is.
When I get into this discussion with people, all I usually end it with is, but they taste the same no matter what you call them.
Sure, absolutely. They fry up nicely. My wife is telling me I have to call. Who is it, honey?
I don't know. Are you
If you need to take a call, ONeil, go ahead.
Okay.
I could not get to it soon enough.
Okay. Well, unless it's the Internal Revenue Service, let's just ignore them. There you go.
Okay.
Let's pretend like that.
Yeah, I'm on air right now on YouTube.
I thought that was like 9:30.
No, 9 o'clock.
Okay. Well, have fun.
Well, I am if you leave me alone.
Hello, Miss Williams. How are you?
I'm sorry, honey.
Yeah, you're gonna say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Good night.
ONeil, I need to ask you at this point how long you've been married.
All right. Well, we were in grammar school together, and high school together. We were acquaintances, but not friends. Even though she sat across from me and flirted with me constantly after about the 10th grade. Then I went to school, and we started dating when I was at the end of my freshman year. See, she's still in the room. Oh, she's still there.
Yeah.
And to make sure you're getting it right.
Right there. And so at freshman year, we began dating. She called and asked if I would take her to a baseball game.
What?
So that was 58 years ago, and we got married in 1965 when I graduated from college. And so we've been married for 55 years.
God bless.
That's awesome. Would she like to step in the picture with you?
Yeah, well, we were going to be, the next anniversary would have been 56, but I understand after tonight it may not last long.
Would you like to step in the picture there with you, ONeil?
That's her back there.
Oh, okay. In the photo.
I see.
Beautiful lady.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on 55 years. That's a long time.
You betcha.
You know, I'm not that far behind you, though, really.
Well, good.
47.
47. All right. Mighty fine.
Yep. And
am I doing okay, baby?
I think. Good night, Gracie.
Yeah. Good night, Gracie.
So how did you get involved in the fishing and outdoors media world?
Oh my goodness. In the late 70s, I was a tournament bass fisherman. Now, I'm not talking about the Bass Masters. I just local, statewide tournaments of 100 boats or something of that nature. And I was successful doing that. And I had some sponsors that would give me rods and reels and worms and pay me $25 a week and so on. And that was the first time that I started. And a local television producer called, well, actually, okay, here we go. A local television producer called the outdoor writer for the Atlanta Journal and Constitution newspapers and asked him to do a television show locally. And he said, I can't do it, but I know who can. And he gave him my telephone number. And then that was history, and that was close to 40 years ago. So that's how tournament fishing, and then being passed along by somebody, thank goodness, who said, I can't do it, but I know who can.
So do you always have those pipes for media? You have a real good radio voice. I understand you do have a radio show, correct?
The radio show is, yes, well, without any encouragement, of course, I'm very boastful. The radio show is on WSB on Saturday mornings, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. WSB is one of those clear channels. There are only 21 clear channel radio stations in the country that are 50,000 watts 24 hours a day. So at that time of the day, I go to 38 states. And I'm on the Sports Map radio network, which is like 150 stations also. So ONeil Outside Radio is the #1, very highly qualified now, live outdoor-based radio talk show in the world.
Fantastic, and we can listen to that on the website ONeilOutside.net, correct?
ONeilOutside.com or .net. Yes, that's
.net. Okay, and when does that happen? When can the people in chat tune in and check it out?
Yeah, and you can hear it on Facebook, and it's also live televised on Facebook also.
Excellent.
When is this?
So it's on television, and that's sort of a challenge sometimes to get up at 2:30 in the morning to do the radio show, and it's on television with a camera as close to me as this computer is.
Wow.
Hey, but hey, listen, I'm not about to stop doing it, even though I'm old.
No, you're not.
See, Mark, I did it again, didn't I?
So this is Saturday morning at what time, ONeil?
4 a.m. Eastern.
4 a.m. Eastern. So
that's right. And it's on for 2 hours.
I'm trying to figure what that is in my time. That would be 5 a.m. here.
No, it's 3.
3.
Oh, man.
I'm sure the replays will be available too on Facebook, if not YouTube and your website.
Nauseatingly so. You can find it anywhere.
Usually,
absolutely.
Kill me every time.
If I'm getting up at 3 a.m., it's because I need to hook the boat up so we can go to the lake. And now, it's not going to happen until we get some warmer weather.
Well, that is my audience. The guy that's driving the truck, pulling the boat, or driving and pulling his four-wheeler on the way to the deer woods, on the way to the deer stand, on the way to the fishing hole. That's my audience. And it's gigantic. Not because the show is so good, but basically because that time of day you can't listen to anybody else.
I don't think you shouldn't discredit yourself like that. I've seen and heard some of your stuff. You're absolutely deserving of that audience. So.
Well, I'm privileged.
Which do you consider the most sporting, hunting or fishing?
Oh, fishing, absolutely.
Okay. I was hoping that would be the case. I kind of thought it was.
Absolutely. Well, all right. For you to be a successful deer hunter, do you have to pull the trigger and kill the deer?
Yes.
Now,
no, I don't think so.
I don't either, but most people do. For crappie fishing, how many crappie does it take for you to keep or throw back to make it a great fishing trip?
None.
Yeah, you don't have to keep any.
No.
Fishing is a whole lot more sporting, and you get to, without the seasons, you get to do it year round. There are 60, here's a little bit something. There's 65 million men and women over 16 years old who, in the United States or North America, who, if you ask them, are you a fisherman? They will say yes. If you ask them, are you a hunter? 12 million will say yes. So there's 5 times more people who approve of fishing than hunting. About.
Wow.
There are 35 million license holders, fishing license holders. But, you know, like Mark, if you've been fishing 2 or 3 times, you're still a fisherman.
Absolutely.
If you're 40 years old and been 3 times, you're still a fisherman. So that's why people say yes to that question.
With pride, usually, too.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
ONeil, I want to ask you a question about something that you and I talked about
this
afternoon, and maybe you have one handy that you could show. You have a book coming out, or it's already out.
Oh, it's out. It's disgusting, really. And quite surprisingly, it's called ONeil Outside. Right. But it's ONeil Outside, and it's it's called really ONeil Outside, People and Places Along the Way. It's not a book of instruction. Matter of fact, I'll probably disappointingly write about you guys one day. So it's the people that I go fishing with or hunting with, the places that I've been, and at the back of it, there's a whole half of the book are big green egg recipes. So you can get the book at Amazon, and you can go to ONeilOutside.com and order it there. Let's see if this one's autographed. I'll bet it is. Nope. See, that's where I would autograph it.
Awesome.
And I would write ONeil on there because that's my name.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, can you get an autographed copy from your website?
If you go to the website and buy it off of my homepage, and I'll ship it to you, I'll sign it and personalize it.
Oh, fantastic.
Mark or to Lyle, Bass Wishes. That's my set salutation. Bass Wishes, ONeil.
Nice. Well,
now, this is fun, you know.
It is. It's supposed to be. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
Now, you was talking about the Big Green Egg. That's a long-time sponsor of yours.
Yes.
And some of the stuff that I've seen fixed on them eggs. We have a friend that does a lot of YouTube videos on fixing stuff. His name is Mike Chavez. But, man, you always come up with some great stuff, and it looks amazing, and you can almost taste it through the TV set. So when that happens, you've done something really special.
Well, Big Green Egg is quite unique. Cooking on the Big Green Egg is an event. I look at it as an event. And as far as those recipes that you see on the show and that are in this book, I must admit that let's say all of those recipes came from Big Green Egg. I'm not a natural cook. They said, cook it this way. This is the temperature. This is the seasoning. And I do that the first half of the year. And the second half on television, or the recipes and the cooking segments are devoted to Swaggerty's sausage, which is in Kodak, Tennessee, and it's the best pork sausage ever. And they're the sponsor of the program. Been on for many, many years. Good folks, good people.
Good.
Having a sponsor like Big Green Egg must be a privilege because nothing goes better with fishing than eating, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, that's right.
That's why Catch and Cooks do so well, and they've been happening for so long. People like you and past guests of ours like Babe Winkleman, it's always been a part of the shows, and it's always been cherished by everybody here. Everybody's got to eat.
They do.
Might as well eat good.
You betcha.
I would go out on a limb and say 90% of the people that made fishing what it is today originally started out catching them to eat before they realized how much dang fun they are to catch.
Absolutely, of course.
It was a necessity back in the early part of history that people caught fish to eat, but they didn't have rods and reels like we have now and hooks and fishing gear like we got. Pardon me. And now a lot of it is for sport because I rarely keep anything. I'm going to start doing a little more of that because I've got an idea for part of our show at some point. But, we would release everything. I just don't like to clean them.
Mm-hmm. You're lazy, I can tell. Mark said you were.
I do a little bit of work. I'm all about responsible harvest. Yeah. If I can bring something home for me and the wife, it's going to come home as long as it's done responsibly. So I'm
Mark told me today, he said, don't mention cleaning fish to Lyle because he's so lazy he won't do it. So there you are. You walk right into it.
I'm so going to clip this out of this video and use it against him for the rest of our lives together.
There you go.
So you started to tell us the story about how you got into fishing. You mind sharing that? It's such an awesome story. You mind sharing that with the people in chat?
You mean the story?
The catfish story. Yeah.
Okay. I have he's still a good friend. He was on the football team, baseball team, and all that. His name was Rick, and he's an outstanding angler and an outstanding hunter. And in the summertime, in the spring, when it started to get warm, and in the summertime, instead of working at the local grocery store or something of that nature for tips, we decided we would, and we became good at it, we would go to some of the local, what I'll call them dollar lakes. You get to fish all day for $1. And we, at these small ponds, we figured out in a little while that if you could stop at the grocery store and buy a can of Green Giant corn or some kind of brand, it didn't matter, and just open the can and scatter it out in front of you where you're fishing. And on these catfishing carp ponds, in a couple of hours, you had every fish in the lake right in front of you. And we'd put our forked sticks out there and our Zebco 202s and 33s and our Johnson Centuries. Remember that one?
I do.
Century. And we'd put 8 rods out there, and we'd use corn for bait on the bottom with a little slip weight. And I would walk around the pond, and after we got started catching them, because there was no limit. When you paid $1, you could catch and keep all you wanted. And I would walk around the pond and offer the service to people on the lake. If you want some fish before you start home today, we'll have some over there. And most of them were nice to me. They would say, hey, I'm 12 years old, 13 maybe. We'll catch our own fish, son. Thank you very much. And, there was one or two that'd say, get out of here, you little punk. I'll catch you up. So
I've heard that many times in my youth.
But I can assure you, before the day was over, that people would be standing in line behind us, say, I'll take the next one. I'll take the next one. I'll take the next one. We'd sell them for 25 cents. We didn't care. And I guess the story goes on because obviously you see what I've done my whole life. And Rick was a manufacturer's representative for Browning Arms.
Oh, wow.
So, and retired from Browning. And you know what I do. So I guess it could be said we're still selling our catch.
You absolutely are. You're naturals for the outdoor industry, obviously.
And I only made up about half of that story.
Well, you know what? That goes to be expected with fishermen, right? I mean, come on.
Right. You can tell when you're lying because our lips are moving. You can always do that. Well, you know something. That's why I came up with the radio show 28 years ago. I had a television show, and I thought, fishermen just can't stop talking, which is the evidence this evening.
Absolutely.
T-shirt. You see a T-shirt, and the T-shirt says, "When have you been? When are you going? What did you catch? What did you use? Who are you going with next time?" And it's on front and back. Fishermen just can't stop. I said, aha, a radio show would work, I'll bet you. And at the time, there were 2 available stations in Atlanta that I wanted to pitch about doing a show. One of them never called me back. And I guess it's a little boastful lesson in life. If you don't return my call, that's not 1 call, that's 20 calls that you didn't return. And the other station gave me an appointment. And I went in and I pitched them. I said, fishermen will listen to this. I have the television show, blah, blah, blah. And he sat about it, and he thought about it, and he said, all right, I'll let you know. I called him back at the prescribed time. He said, we're not going to do it. We don't think it'll work. This is the station manager. And I said, you're wrong. It will. And I'm going to give you a chance to change your mind. Can I come and see you next week? Yes, you can. I walked in the office and he said, I give up. I'll put you on Sunday afternoon at about 6 p.m. on Sunday evenings live. And I think, again, I got on the telephone and called everybody I knew. We probably had 50 people listen. And my Gail has always been supportive. She's not here, is she? She's always been extremely supportive. And we drove to downtown Atlanta to the radio station every Sunday evening. And we stopped at the Varsity and ate hot dogs. And I made $15 a week. That's how the radio show got started. And it's all folded together now.
It is. And that's a great story.
Betty Jean, they must like your stories. Betty Jean Cross wants to hear another story about, she asks, ONeil, tell us about your most memorable fishing story.
Oh, my goodness.
Putting you on the spot here.
Well, it's the most memorable ones are the ones that you how shall I say? You escape death, I guess. I've been all over and I've caught a lot of fish and spent some great times with partners, but on several occasions I've fallen out of the boat. And so whether that's a favorite or not, it's a favorite because I survived. Back years ago when you didn't have an on and off switch, the trolling motor stayed on and you put your foot on top of it to steer it. There wasn't a foot pedal. Okay. And it was during one of those March snow and ice and sleet storms in the Georgia area. I think it was somewhere around, it must have been about 24 degrees. I hit a stump, went over the edge in my snowmobile suit. Thankful it was only about chest deep. And the trolling motor was still running. And I reached with my finger and caught the ski eye next to the engine. And got back in the boat and got back to the marina. But I was hallucinating before I got back to the marina. And a couple of fishermen followed me in to make sure I'd make it. Is that the moment? I don't know. I've been in wonderful places and spent some great times with some fabulous fishermen and storytellers. So it's hard to say.
And aren't most of the great fishermen great storytellers too?
Oh, well, if they're on television, they probably are. Make it up as you go a lot of times, I got to tell you. My favorite's Bill Dance.
Bill's a great storyteller and a fine guy. I know him very well, but we have a guy in the catfish industry. He's a great big guy. They call him Big Daddy. His name is Jeff Dodd. He's a great friend of mine, and he is an awesome storyteller. But,
I see.
He's so much fun to be around. You remind me of him and a smaller, petite body compared to Jeff, because he's a big guy. He's a big dude, but he's got a story about everything, and he gets to laughing and telling them stories, and he's just a wonderful guy to be around.
Well, people ask me, they will ask me sometime, who do you know? Who have you ever spent any time with, and how, and what kind of a person are they? And I always like to say, what you watch on Bill Dance, that is Bill Dance.
That is 100% true. That's 100%
him.
true. Yeah.
And Jimmy Houston too. Jimmy Houston's just like that.
I've not had that privilege.
Yeah.
I've talked with Jimmy Houston for a brief moment. I talk to him online every now and then. He was actually like the first subscriber to my channel. So God bless him for doing that. Yeah, that's kind of my cool somebody that I know story right there. But he's always welcoming of anybody who approaches him. So God bless him.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yep. Bill is such an approachable person, and he gives back to fishing as much as anybody. I mean, when we have them big tournaments down in Memphis, he's out there visiting with the crowd and signing autographs from the time he gets there till the time he leaves, and he's no spring chicken. I think he's 8 years old this year, but he loves the people, and he loves to tell them about selective harvest and what we have to do to save the big fish. And don't take them all. It doesn't hurt to put one back once in a while, and he makes it so easy to just rolls to the people where they understand it.
Absolutely. All right, let's play a game here. Ready? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Tell me who this person is. I'm going to describe somebody, and I want you to tell me who it is. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. His father was a doctor, and his grandfather was a doctor, and he was going to be a doctor. But he came upon a rather grisly motorcycle wreck one day with his dad in the truck or in the car, and he didn't like it. It was bloody and messy and everything. He said, I'm not going to be a doctor. And he ended up being a professional fisherman. Who am I talking about?
It's not you, is it?
No, it's Bill Dance.
It's Bill Dance. Wow.
How about that?
I did not know that.
I start this week with very selfishly, I hope that when people watch my television show or listen to the radio program, when it's over, if they stick around until the end or when they turn it off, they should say, I didn't know that. I got to do that next time. I've got to go there. I've got to hire that guide. When the wind's blowing out of the east and there's no clouds, I got to do that he did today. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I have a spot in the program called Who Is This? And so I give that description, and the first person that calls into the radio show live and tells me who that is, they get a great prize. They get knives or rods and reels and just tons of stuff.
That's way cool.
You get to learn something by being on the radio, by listening on the radio show one day. You'll learn something about that.
Absolutely.
I know that our audience loves prizes, so I'm going to post your link out a couple times so they can listen in and maybe get in on that action once in a while. I'm sure they'd love it.
Love to.
They'll watch it because they'll learn how to catch fish or whatever ONeil's talking about that particular day also, because like I say, he's a great fisherman. I've watched him catch stuff, not giants every time and not thousands of them every time, but he does it the correct way and has fun doing it. And that's why we're supposed to be doing it, is do it for entertainment factor.
Well, my philosophy about the television show is, and the success or not success of the show is the following. It's one day. I don't fish for 3 days and then try to pretend it's one day and I'm this fantastic angler. It's one day. And if you start at 2 in the afternoon and you stay overnight, you stop at 2 the next day. It's one day's fishing. ONeil is not destined to be a heroic fisherman or hunter. It's what you learn from my guests. That's what you get out of it, not me. It's from my guests.
And that's the way we feel.
Absolutely agree with that. Totally. 100%.
That's a life lesson there.
You know what I find? I feel my thoughts when I watch people in the outdoor media like yourself, absolutely, is I always end up looking forward to the next adventure.
Oh yeah.
That's a big part of it for me. Obviously the learning part of it too. And then it's just the fun and the connection that everybody has. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for everybody out there that's doing it.
My pleasure, my privilege.
Now, do you think that the stuff that we all grew up watching, and I'm not talking about cartoons because they was on too, but we grew up watching you and Bill and later on Jimmy Houston, like you was talking about, and Hank Parker and these guys that come along. Do you think that will continue once the older generation has passed the torch? Will there be people that has the insight like you have to do that?
Oh, sure. You just have to be more discerning when you pick the show. That's all. You know, if it's what is it you want by watching? If you want to watch somebody go to Alaska and shoot a Rocky Mountain goat, by all means, if that's what rings your bell. But if you want to learn something, then watch Bill or Jimmy or Roland or Hank Parker, and that's another guy who's just like he is on television. Is Hank Parker. I know him well.
Yep.
What you see, the way he talks, everything, that's Hank. He's not, because, you know, permit me, if I will, just for a moment. Ready?
Sure.
This is not a heroic occupation. I don't give you any medicine. I don't make you well. I don't save your life. If your house is on fire, I don't put it out. Somebody knocks on the glass at the back door at night to try to get in, you're not going to call ONeil. You're going to call a police officer. You get sick, you're going to see a doctor. This is not heroic. This is a wonderful way to make a living, but it's not heroic. There are heroes in this world. Soldiers, teachers, most of the time parents, okay, police, firefighters, and so on. Not fishermen. Not people on television.
Amen. I love that.
That's a great analogy. That's probably one of the best ways that I've ever heard that put, and it's so true. People make TV personalities, whether they're making movies or videos or fishing shows. It doesn't matter. They make heroes out of them when they're entertainers. And doctors and firefighters and the police officers and the nurses and the people that is putting up and going through all this COVID-19, them are heroes.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So
not somebody that makes a cast and catches a bass. So what?
That's right.
So what?
That's exactly right.
Those people are just lucky, not heroes. They're lucky they can do it.
We watch the fishing shows now on YouTube a lot more than ever before because we come to know these folks. Like, you know, I growing up, I thought I knew Bill Dance. I thought I knew ONeil Williams. But until I met him, I really didn't know him. I only knew him on Saturday mornings.
Right.
But now it's different. It really is different. But when you see these nurses and doctors and firefighters, like you're saying, and every soldier that's ever been in any form of military, those are true heroes.
That's right. I was raised by a hero. My dad was a fighter pilot with the Army Air Corps, and he died in a crash when I was 6 weeks old. My mother remarried when I was 3. And he had just gotten back from the service, and he was made 25 bombing missions out of a B-29 Super Fortress, 25 bombing missions over Japan as a radio operator. He was a hero.
I agree.
I agree. I have to give it to you. Yeah.
Speaking of heroes, we have one of the nurses in chat with another question.
Okay.
She says, if you could only fish for one species for the rest of your life, what would that be?
Okay, largemouth bass. Largemouth or spotted bass. And the reason is, good question. The reason is because you catch them so many different ways. You can catch them if it's 15 degrees or 105. You can catch them on the surface. You can catch them at 80 feet deep. Big baits, small baits, light baits, dark baits, swimming baits, spinner baits, buzz baits. You catch them all year long, and you can't do that with many other species in so many different ways. So that's the number one species. If I had to do that, it would be it. Largemouth or spotted bass.
Very good. Very good. I chased them for years. But
I think, here's one thing that I've noticed. A lot of catfishermen and crappie fishermen, they talk a lot of smack about bass, but if they catch one and it's a decent one, they're the first ones to post those pictures up, ONeil. They're always on there. So they're either talking a big game or they're hiding their secret passion and love affair for bass. And I can understand that because you can catch them through the ice, you can catch them in the heat of summer. In the nice weather in the spring and the fall, they're always available. That hunting season never ends.
Yeah. Well, a catfish is extremely interesting because those barbels, those are taste buds. That's how he finds his food. And he's flat because he feeds on the bottom. And he's got taste buds all up and down his sides. Many of the species do. He's a very interesting species. Is a catfish, and we have along the Mississippi. You guys got some great fishing up there. We have a terrific place here in South Carolina called Santee Cooper Lakes, 180,000 acres, and I've been there many times. And my favorite guide there is named Captain Daryl Smith.
No, Daryl,
fabulous guide, and the limit is when your 70-quart cooler is full. That's trips over.
Yep.
Up to 70-quart cooler, so we can go in now, and that usually happens before lunch.
He catches a lot of fish.
Oh yeah, I think his record is 101.5 pounds.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
that sounds right.
It's right. Scary.
Yeah, it is.
I see some people talking. There's people agreeing with they're willing to catch those quote unquote ditch pickles, which we so affectionately call them. So everybody is agreeing with you there. We got a couple of people from the Santee Cooper area in chat actually, so they were definitely relating with what you were saying. Definitely, that's a mecca for catfishing. But that's a different show. Let's talk a little bit about your passion for panfish. How often do you get out? Usually, when you're going out, is it always for crappie, or do you still chase those big bluegill? Can you tell us some of that?
I like panfish, and those trips for panfish, for bluegill, for shell cracker, for redbreast and all those little guys. That's when I have a child with me. A red and white float with a cricket underneath. What is it they say? The prettiest sight in the world is the hole in the water where the cork used to be.
I love that.
It can be 2 inches or 10 inches long. It doesn't matter. Just long as something's pulling.
That's right.
Sure, all the equipment works correctly. The line doesn't twist. And congratulate them. And because now we have these telephones or cell phones, take lots and lots of photos. You'll remember them the rest of your life.
That's exactly right. And what you're doing is my old buddy on that used to be co-host to our show, Catfish Weekly, was Doc Lang, and he said he would tell you that's making memories.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's his granddaughter coined that phrase to him, and he's used it ever since. And it's more truth than anything that's in the fishing industry, I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely. Well,
Betty has another question for you. She wants to know if your wife enjoys fishing with you.
No, she enjoys the trips to Costa Rica and to New Orleans and so forth. But Gail is not a fisherman.
Okay.
No, she's not.
Well, the reason I think is because our industry has become a lot of husband wife fishing together, not
Good
just
idea.
shows, but teams. Cindy and I fished tournaments, big tournaments all over the United States for several years.
Mhm.
And she was my partner, and I wouldn't have traded her for anybody.
Right.
But there's a lot more of that happening now, and some of the people that go out, whether they're fun fishing or they're tournament fishing, their partners are their wives now, and I think that's where that question probably stemmed from.
Well, one of the things that I hasten to mention is that I live in the North Georgia mountains, and it's an hour and a half to an hour and 40 minutes from here to the radio studio at WSB in Atlanta. And Gail and I would get up at 1:30 in the morning and drive on a Saturday morning, 1:30, and drive down to the radio station to do the show.
Wow.
And I can't tell you the supporting comments that she's always given me. I know you can do this. Oh man, I don't know. It's a radio show. Gee, you can do it.
That's right.
Good. You can do it. She went with me at WGST, went with me at WSB, and I can remember, isn't that funny? You start talking about these things. I can remember years and years ago, I putting together a media kit, okay, to sell advertising on the television show. And it was 14 pages long, 14 pages folder. And I can remember the two of us, not me, the two of us up at 1 o'clock in the morning, putting those media kits together.
Wow.
It's not just ONeil
Yeah.
at all.
I agree.
Right.
Our sometimes our spouses are our greatest sponsors, like we used to call them. We call them our sponsors. Whether it's the support they give you, whether it's coming with you or telling you can get something done, or even just giving you a kiss on the way out the door and telling you to have fun.
That's
So
right.
I can definitely relate with that.
Yeah, you bet.
ONeil, I have a friend of mine that lives in Nebraska that's watching the show tonight. His name is Sonny Parker, and he would like to know, who is your favorite celebrity person to ever have fished with?
Favorite celebrity person that I've ever fishing celebrity or just celebrity? It's hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
The best fisherman I've ever been in a boat with was a Bassmasters Classic winner and Bass Angler of the Year, a fellow by the name of Davey Height.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was a great demonstration. Davey and I were at a really good lake in North Carolina. The air temperature was 24. The surface temperature of the water was 42. It was one of those days when you say, I think I got a bite. I think. So this is a really good lake, and Davey and he's just as mild-mannered, and I'm in the front of the boat. I'm getting the first cast at everything. We're using the same bait, which is a mop jig, and I'm getting first shot at every target. And after 4 hours, I caught 2 and he caught 5.
Wow.
I figured Davey's at least 2.5 times better than me. Okay. So that was a thrill getting to fish with a Bassmasters Classic champion, Davey Height. And yes, I fished with some baseball players and football players and things of that nature, but in the fishing world, it's Davey Height. I never fished with Dance or Jimmy or any of that guy, those guys.
Well, Davey Height is a pretty big deal.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it don't get much better than that. Back in the day when he was competitive, he was the guy to beat, and I think all of the right now it's probably Kevin Van Dam, but Davey Height had on television all the time, and somebody was talking about him winning this or winning that. I mean, he was a great guy and very knowledgeable and done great interviews. And from a viewer watching somebody on TV back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, somebody that done a great interview, they're a star to us.
Oh, certainly. Well, the best television shows that I've ever done are with guides or people like Davey, in which I say, hello again, everyone. This is ONeil. Welcome to the program. I have with me today Davey Hite. Davey, go.
That's it.
And then hey, we enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys joined us. I don't have to say anything. And I have some guides around that I still fish with to do shows, and they are picked for that. Because listen, I don't know how to fish for redfish in Pensacola Bay. I don't know how to fish for speckled trout on the Georgia coast. I don't know how to fish for, oh my goodness, in the Keys for tarpon. I don't know how to do that. I have to have somebody show me how to do that. And a guide who does it every day, oh my goodness, he's got it locked.
It's a blessing to spend time with people like that, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It really is. It totally enriches the experience, because I've been in situations where you travel to a destination and try to fish it yourself and it doesn't pan out. But if you do that, get a guide the first couple of days, you can make or break a trip. So
I preach that on the radio show every week. If you're moving to an area, you want to know how to fish a certain lake, hire a guide. But you need to tell him up front, this is why I'm hiring you today.
Mm-hmm.
You can show me where should I fish in April? Where should I fish, and what should I do in August? What should I do in January? Let him show you, and then go back 4 or 5 times. You'll learn more from him in 5 trips than you fishing the lake by yourself in 10 years.
Absolutely. Because he's done it for 10 years. He's been doing it. If you get one that's been there for a while.
We have a Patriot, James Smith, lives in North Carolina or South Carolina. My co-host on Catfish Weekly wants to know if you've ever fished with Guy Ecker, Eaker.
Yes, I have. By golly, I fish. It's Guy Eaker.
Okay.
I think he won the Bassmasters Classic. I'm not sure, but in any case, yes, I fish with Guy. He's a fabulous fisherman, just absolutely fabulous.
That's great. That's great. That'll answer his question, because James used to fish a lot of bass tournaments back in the day. We've converted him over to a catman now, but you know how that works. Well, you might not know how that works, but there's a lot of them that does that. North Carolina, he said. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember. I know he lives around Charlotte somewhere.
That's correct. Both Guy and ONeil are associated with Bojangles.
Okay.
And so best biscuits in the world. And so, yes, I fish with Guy. He's a great fella. Great fella.
Awesome. If you folks have any questions for ONeil, we're getting on about time an hour, so we got a little bit of time left. But if you have any questions for ONeil, please get them in here. He's an outstanding guest, and he'll answer just about anything you ask him.
Just about. If I can make up something, it'll be better. If it has to be the truth, now we're in trouble.
So does anybody stand out in your mind as being the next people to come up in the outdoor media world?
The fellow that I follow a little, what's the guy's name? The name of the show is Meat Eater.
Steve Ranella. I enjoy him very much.
Yeah, he has taken the reach to the outdoorsman. He has taken to the next level. I mean, that's first class all the way.
Yes, it is. I've watched that show too.
And he covers fishing and hunting and outdoorsmanship and the culinary part of it.
Absolutely.
He's definitely taken it to the next level.
I watched. I don't watch outdoor shows much, but I did watch him, and a full show. And I can tell you, in my experience, it took him at least 7 days to shoot that show. maybe 10 or more. That's
Wow.
real dedication. He spent a lot of time and money. It was I could tell it was a multi-camera shoot. And man, he's just taking it to a different level. Steve Renault.
And it is absolutely a big advocate for both responsible harvest for fishing and hunting. I think he's really got it down. So that was one of the first people that came to mind when we were talking about that.
Good.
There was a question in here that I wanted to get.
Somebody wants to know what your favorite body of water is to fish.
That's it.
The closest one.
That's a great answer.
I would tell you that in my judgment, where the Mississippi River dumps into the Gulf Coast after 60 million years of doing it, south of New Orleans in what's called the Atchafalaya Basin, that is the best inshore saltwater fishing on the coast of North America. That is the basin, if you will. That is the chosen direction that the Mississippi River would like to take. But it's burned up, so it goes to New Orleans so you can have Mardi Gras.
Mm-hmm.
So the Atchafalaya Basin is 30 miles wide. It's 90 miles long. It's 6 feet deep. It's super hyper fertile, and it's full of billions of fish. For instance, I'll just, instead of making it a question, the limit for speckled trout along the Atlantic coast throughout Florida and the Florida Gulf Coast, including Alabama, probably the limit for speckled trout is 5. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
At the Atchafalaya Basin, it's 25.
Wow.
Go out with a guide, and you got 3 people in the boat or 4, and including the guide, you'll come back with a 25 fish limit for everybody at lunchtime.
I have to mention Creole Catfish, who's in chat. He fishes there every chance he gets. He lives right over there at that section of the river. So, and he is attesting in chat that he agrees with you 100%.
Well, that's fabulous. I go every year to a place called Cajun Vista Lodge. I've been going down in it for at least a dozen years, and it's a pleasure. As a matter of fact, because I have a lot of stragglers along, I rent the whole place.
Nice.
And so it's a big party. We fish for 3 days, and you catch, if there's 25 people, you catch 25 limits every day.
I'm going to take the risk of being forward and ask you if you got room for 2 more stragglers.
Yeah, we'll go the 3rd week of October. That's when the speckled trout come up into the bay.
That's good to know. That would be fantastic.
You bet.
Wow. Yeah, I would love to go down there. I did not know that.
Now, when you get there, don't do this, okay? On the first trout that you catch, don't you put a safety pin in his dorsal fin and connect it to a little balloon and put him back in so that you can follow the balloon wherever the school goes. Don't you do that. It's illegal.
There's a story I hear people doing stuff like that with a empty 20-ounce pop bottle, a little Aberdeen hook, and some fishing line when it comes to crappies too. But I wouldn't know anything about that.
No, I bet you wouldn't. You devil, you.
I didn't know that you could use a trick that we call it the Judas trick on a speckled trout. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Not to do.
But it's illegal, so you didn't hear it from me. I'm telling you, okay?
I'm taking it as a warning rather than advice.
Yeah, this is ONeil. I've got a reputation to try to uphold.
ONeil, I have a serious question for you.
Uh-oh.
We have had so much fun with you tonight. Is there any chance that we could get you back on at some point?
Absolutely. Listen, if it helps you for me to do this with you, then you can count me in.
Thank you so much, because the insight and humor that you've brought to a bunch of poor old fishing men and women tonight has absolutely been fabulous, and I cannot thank you enough.
Well, it's my pleasure. Just if I'm leaving you now, I want to leave you with the following. Ready?
Very good.
If you're too busy to go fishing and take a kid along, you're too busy.
I agree 100%. That's so true words. Betty Jean had come in to the chat a while ago, and she wanted to know, Ben's, next week was our 4-week anniversary. Who would be the special guest? And the special guest is a guy that lives at Lake of the Ozarks. His name is Mike Baker. He does YouTube videos, and he does a lot of fishing. He prefers crappie, I believe, but he will catch a bluegill once in a while.
Okay.
And he's going to be our guest next week on Panfish Weekly.
Okay. Now, you remember what you call a 2-pound crappie?
You call it a slab.
Slob.
Slob.
Up
here in the north, a 2-pound crappie is a slob.
If I can remember that, I will tell Mike. He'll get a kick out of that, because he's probably about somewhere between my age and your age, somewhere along in there, and I know he knows who you are. I'm quite sure.
Well, you listen. It's been a privilege. You guys take care and keep up the good work. You bet.
Thank you, sir. The privilege has been mine. Thank you very much for being on the show.
I want to thank everybody that joined the show and had questions in chat and just wanted to see a great sportsman be on our show with us tonight. And we want to thank you all for doing that. And we will be back next Thursday evening at 9 Central, 8 Central, 9 Eastern. And then be sure to tune in for Catfish Weekly on Monday nights, and Mark's show, Catfish and Crappie, tomorrow night at 7 Central, 8 Eastern.
Okay.
And, Mark, tell us about your show that you're doing on the weekend.
I have Rob, my buddy, Missouri Creek Fishing. He's a real good stand-up guy. I think you guys need to tune in. You're going to be surprised at how knowledgeable and accomplished this guy is. I guarantee you're going to be impressed not only with his skill, his knowledge, with the way he portrays himself and how family-orientated he is. So tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on my channel. I appreciate the views, guys. Thank you so much for the support.
You bet.
Hope everybody enjoyed James Dockery and Chad Fields a while ago. They was hilarious. And Creo and Laura, great sports to be able to do the show that they had put on for us all this evening. It was wonderful. ONeil, hang tight. We'll be right back. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Bye-bye.